The hero of this story is named Frey Rayon, and he was the hero chosen to save this world from the Demon Queen and her army. But he did the exact opposite by joining her and destroying the world, plunging it into flames and misery at the hands of demons. However, he did this only to betray the Demon Queen and die with her together. It was not an easy path, and he had to kill many of his friends. They were the strongest mages, warriors, and queens, and each of them promised that they would avenge his betrayal no matter what. But why did our hero do this? Let's find out. Our story starts 10 years ago as 10-year-old Frey Rayon Starlight follows his father through the halls of their estate while reading a letter. He can barely tell what the letters mean, but his father explains that it's called Kana, and only descendants of their bloodline can read it. The two head down a long flight of stairs and eventually reach their destination, a large door with strange glowing markings on it. Frey must cross the barrier alone, and his father gives him one last bit of advice and tells him to stand firm. The reason for his grim expression is the prophecy that has been floating around the kingdom. It says that when the Demon King vanishes, the world will be engulfed after 1,000 years. But at the worst moment just before it's taken away, a hero will emerge to save the world. The Starlight family, however, carries another prophecy that only they know. It says that after those 1,000 years, a successor to both the Demon King and the hero will appear. And that 1,000 years is exactly now. With that bombshell dropped, the man opens the door for Frey to enter and immediately locks him in before his eyes can even adjust to the darkness. Frey pounds on the door, calling for his father, but there is no reply. Instead, the floor begins to glow with some kind of sparkling light that leads him to a glowing sword. Just as he's about to grab it, someone else appears and stops him, telling him that the sword is too much for him to handle. Frey can't recognize the man, but this is actually his ancestor and the hero that the prophecy talks about. The man ignores his rudeness and asks Frey if he came there to learn how to conquer the world. The boy only came because his father told him that this is going to be the only way to save his friends, but the hero explains that is also part of the conquering that he will do. The world he lives in is called the hard mode that leads to an inevitable bad end. Frey doesn't seem to immediately understand, so the hero is forced to show him the future instead. He places his hand on Frey's head and shows him the future if he takes the wrong route. It's filled with death and demons, and he clearly sees the death of all his loved ones at the hands of their enemies. The vision is too strong, and Frey immediately collapses on the ground as soon as it's done. The world will be filled with despair, and the vision made him witness him losing everything he holds dear. But now it's crucial that he makes a choice which will dictate the fate of the world. Frey pushes himself to his feet with a look of determination on his face and declares that he will protect everyone he loves, just like his ancestors did before him. That proves to his ancestor that Frey really is a hero, just like him. The next step will be teaching the kid the only path to the happy end. He puts his hand on Frey's face again, and this time shows him how to reach the good ending of this world. It's not an easy path at all, and it will require him to destroy the world with his own hands and die with the Demon King. Once he manages to accomplish that, then he will unlock the hidden route which comes with its own trials. If he can stick to this route without losing his determination, then he will save the world. 10 years in the future, an older Frey who has just been reborn after destroying the world and killing everyone he cares about is ready to start heading towards the happy end. Nothing has changed from before, and the world could still end again. But in this life, he has something to help him. That is a system. It's a new ability that will be useful in guiding him through the future that he is about to encounter. From what his ancestor showed him, if he manages to use the system well and master it, then he will accomplish the end with all his loved ones just like he has always dreamed of. As he stews in his thoughts, a knock comes from his bedroom door. It's someone named Kanya, and she's requesting to come into his room. After struggling for so long in his past life, it's best for him to take a break for a bit. And it's been a while since he has seen his childhood friend and servant, Kanya. Unfortunately for him, the system has other plans and immediately warns him that his precious childhood friend has intense killing intent towards him. It also informs him that the 5 main heroines who he mercilessly slaughtered in his previous life all have memories of that past life. This is the path of the false villain. Because of the requirements of the good ending, the system will force the hero to commit the same evil acts that he committed in his past life. And if any good deeds are discovered, then the hero's life force will be severely diminished. These restrictions are essential for conquering the hidden route. But the system also comes with some beneficial functionality, like an item and skill shop where he can purchase things from using false villain points. These points accumulate with every evil act. It also, of course, informs him when one of his past lovers has an intense urge to kill him, like right now. As the dark sorceress Kanya walks into the room, the system doesn't even have to tell anyone that she's full of rage. Frey can feel it directly coming from her, and it causes him to shiver in fear. Kanya is his butler from his past life, who was cursed from birth with dark magic that saps her life force. She's also one of the 5 main heroines from the prophecy. and if she remembers all the horrible things he did in his past life, then it's certain that she will try to kill him at any moment. For now, however, she just asks him if he wants to eat and replies by asking for the usual. From her sharp glare and the way she slammed the door, it's obvious that the usual will be fatal. Frey sits in bed and continues to shiver at the thought of what Kanya might do to him. There's no doubt that she remembers everything, so he has to prepare for anything that she may try to pull. The system once again warns him of intense murderous intent, but then it also activates a skill for him called False Villain's Intuition. This skill detects one life-threatening threat per day, and right now the target is identified as Kanya. Although it's not like she will get away unscathed after killing her master, so she must really hate him if she wants to try such a thing. The door opens suddenly and Kanya walks in, holding a covered dish of soup. It's obvious to Frey that she must have cursed the food with dark magic in hopes of killing him. As she puts the food in front of him and turns to make her leave, Frey decides to make his move as well. He calls her back and yells at her to go and make a sandwich for him instead. Then he throws the plate of food at her so hard that it smashes against a nearby wall. That evil act gained him 1 false villain point, and Kanya rushes out of the room to fulfill his request. A few minutes later, she returns with the sandwich he requested, but it's still filled with a dark energy. He sends her back to remake it again, and this time she tries to argue, but she can't say anything in front of her master. And so with that, Kanya continues to remake the same dish over and over in hopes of poisoning him, but he keeps sending her back to remake it. Each time he does so, he gains 1 false villain point from the evil act, until finally, after the 8th attempt, Kanya can barely stumble her way into the room with a new sandwich without collapsing in exhaustion. She kept remaking it with dark magic, and now her magic is completely drained. This time, he takes the sandwich and raises it to his mouth to take a bite while Kanya watches with hope in her eyes. But to her dismay, he tosses it over his shoulder and tells her that he would rather have the soup from earlier. Hearing that she has to go and make the food again is the final tipping point for the butler, and she can't stay awake anymore. She collapses from exhaustion, and Frey is there in a heartbeat to catch her before she hits the ground. He takes a moment to glance at her face and stroke her hair, wondering how different things would have been if he could laugh with her for a little while. Then he picks her up and places her on his bed to rest for the night. For now, she's exhausted, and he needs to replenish her life force before her condition gets worse. The only way to stabilize Kanya's dark magic is to fill her cursed body with someone else's life force. Frey is most likely not going to live long anyways, so this is the least he can do for her after all the trouble he has caused. After he's done transferring the life force, he sits down and tries to come up with a way to manage this situation. His original plan was to lay low until the main quest begins in 2 months, while making subtle preparations without drawing too much attention. But now that the 5 heroines know of his past life's decisions, he can't do that anymore. Apart from Kanya, the other main heroines are a serious threat to him. One of them is his traveling fiancée, and since she's not around at the moment, he doesn't need to immediately deal with her. The other is Princess Klana, who was abandoned by the royal family. At the moment, she has no real power to act against him. The real problems are the Saintess Ferloche and Irina. Ferloche is just a pawn of the church, but she still has the power to socially destroy him. Irina, on the other hand, is needlessly reckless and impulsive, so she might kill him on sight without hesitation. Then there's Kanya, who is always going to be with him. Since her sister is being held hostage, she won't immediately kill him, but he has to gather false villain points, and that means constantly provoking her. He needs to build up his survival skills and power unless he will quickly be killed. The false villain points he gets from Kanya are limited, so he has a higher chance of accumulating more points from having more interactions with people. From the information he has gathered from the prophecy book, he should be able to recover some ground. In the meantime, he has to take his time and organize everything so that he's properly prepared. The real battle will begin once he enrolls into the academy. Frey spends the whole night digging into the prophecy book that he doesn't even realize when it becomes morning. Now it's time to wake up Kanya, who has been peacefully sleeping on his bed the entire night. He picks her up gently and places her on the floor to make it look like she never moved. Then he yells at her to wake up. The butler jolts awake, clearly confused about where she is, before shooting Frey a dirty look. But she can't complain even if she wanted to. Today is going to be their first day at the academy, so he orders her to go and prepare a carriage for the both of them. After she leaves, he summons the system window to see what he has gained. Even after his maltreatment of Kanya yesterday, he still only has 100 points. He's going to need at least several hundred points before he can buy skills and items. The thought of having to do evil deeds against his will while still attending school makes him feel exhausted. A while later, the two are enrolled in the school, and Frey is chosen as the student council representative. In a short amount of time, he has managed to bring the fakest amongst the student elite to his side. They cling to him like vultures and constantly praise him, but he knows that they are horrible people with clear ulterior motives. For now, though, He just has to stick with them for the sake of his plan. As he enjoys some wine and a fine meal, two of his new acquaintances tell him that they have brought some commoner women for him to enjoy. Money and women really are all that these people care about. But he has to play along for the sake of the prophecy. If things were different, he'd love to take care of these rotten nobles right alongside the Demon King. Then the nobles bring in the two commoner women that they were talking about, and it's clear that whoever it is does not want to come in without a fight. Eventually, they manage to drag them kicking and screaming, and one of them happens to be one of the heroines of the prophecy, Irina. Frey immediately knows that there is no way that Irina got caught. One of her specialties is fire magic, and she can use other types of elemental magic as well. She's a truly genius mage, and usually, no one should be able to treat her like this so easily. That can only mean that she must have gotten caught intentionally in order to sneak into the noble gathering. As a preventive measure, he opens up the system store and scans through the items for something useful. The best thing he finds is an emergency defense item which protects him from a fatal blow once. Thankfully, he can afford it thanks to the points he earned from maltreating Kanya. The system window also tells him Irina's status, and it seems like she's suffering from mana depletion. For a genius like Irina to be suffering from mana depletion, that means that she's most likely storing up mana and planning to explode it all later. She yells at them definitely while they push her and her friend around, and Frey watches them silently for a while. Then he tells them to get lost so he can play with the women alone. The two nobles that drag the girls in run out as fast as they can, leaving Frey alone to have his fun. He starts with Irina, leaning down and promising to have some fun with her. Irina is disgusted that Frey could be so horrible and believes that she should be the one to strike him down and not the Demon King's army. Then he reaches over to touch her body, and she flinches back, ready for whatever he's about to do, but nothing happens. She looks back over to him and sees him passed out on the floor. It looks like he passed out drunk, and the two girls take the opportunity to escape. The two girls free themselves and run out while they still have the chance. From what they heard, Frey is the kind of person that thinks of commoners as slaves, and anyone who gets caught is in for a horrible fate. In reality though, Frey is wide awake and only pretended to sleep for their sake. It looks like his acting skills successfully managed to send everyone away. With that taken care of, continues to lay on the floor resting. Time passes until midnight when the system suddenly activates and uses the emergency defense to protect Frey's life. The person who tried to kill him was Irina, who cast a spell that declares death on a target once it is 12 a.m. This ability can only be used once a year, and the caster remains in a state of mana depletion for a year. If he hadn't bought the emergency defense, there is no way if it were just the two of them. The system immediately warns him of intense murderous intent from her, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out what her intentions are. He outrightly refuses and walks away while she tries desperately to call him back. Normally her blessings are something that can't be bought with money, but Frey is not interested in getting murdered. She cries as he walks away and Frey sighs in exhaustion. If she continues being this naively pure, then she will get used by the cult again. The class meets outside for their second period, which is combat training. They all will step forward one by one and fight against the teacher while she demonstrates their skills. Each student walks into the arena and immediately gets defeated by the teacher. Swordsmen and mages alike all fall in front of her before they can even do anything. Eventually, it's Kania's turn, and she fights bravely against the teacher, longer than anyone has so far. Normally she ends her fights quickly to prevent mana depletion, but today seems different. She's fighting for so long that Frey has to share his vitality with her remotely. The fight goes on for so long that Frey starts to feel the effects of his shrinking life force, and he mentally begs for Kania to end the fight fast. Despite her low mana, the teacher is impressed by her fighting spirit and wants to see how much longer she can last. But Kania surrenders. She explains that she was born with unstable mana and might lose control if the fight goes on for any longer. It's a shame that she has to live like that despite having the potential to become the strongest mage. Frey, on the other hand, is relieved that she finally stopped, since he almost thought he would run out of vitality keeping her alive. As Kania walks out of the arena, it's almost Frey's turn to step up. Before he heads in though, he puts a strange-looking pin on his collar and it glows with an ominous light. He's planning to use this demonstration as an opportunity to earn a lot of points. Irina's turn comes up first, but she's immediately knocked out due to her mana depletion. The teacher doesn't even bother fighting her and calls for someone to take her to the infirmary. Her friend from earlier comes out to save her before she faints, while the teacher sheaths her sword. Then's turn comes up next, but she asks to forfeit because she feels like it's not right to use her powers on a teacher. Doing that means that she will have to face some kind of disadvantage later, but she's ready for that. Now that everyone has taken the test, that leaves Frey as the last student. He walks down the steps casually with his sword against his shoulder and a bored expression on his face. The two mock each other for a moment and they clearly have history together, but then she gets serious and tells him that she will break him out of that rotten mentality of his. The two rush at each other and the difference in power is immediately obvious to the teacher. The pendant he's wearing was really extra expensive, but the power boost is definitely paying off. He counters her attack, then sends two slashing attacks towards her. She just barely manages to block the attacks, but from their brief interaction, it's obvious that Frey has the upper hand, and he's successfully pushing the teacher back. They clash again, and after a brief exchange of blows, Frey successfully pushes the sword out of his teacher's hands, ending the fight with his victory as the blade strikes the ground behind them. The entire crowd is shocked into silence, but Farlosh notices the pendant that Frey put on before the fight and calls him out on it. The pendant is releasing an aura of the devil, and she storms up to him to check it up close for herself. The Saintess walks up to him and pours holy magic into the pendant, causing it to scream out in pain. That's enough proof for the crowd that the Duke's son is using black magic, and it's not cheap either. Something like that would be worth as much as a whole house. His little stunt with the pendant earns him 2,000 false villain points. It looks like causing trouble in the school will be the safest method to get more points for himself. His teacher isn't nearly as happy about the incident as he seems to be though. She calls him to his office to have a personal meeting with her. Bringing an item like that to school grounds is not just against the rules, it's also highly illegal. That kind of thing puts him and everyone around them in danger. He tries to play it off as something that isn't a big deal, but it's clear that this incident is too much for him to just brush under the rug. The teacher directly asks him what happened to the kind person he used to be before. She's clearly worried about him, but after how far he's gone, there's no turning back at this point. Her words cut into him, but he has to keep up the guise of being a crazy former hero. He changes the topic of the conversation, instead choosing to mock her for trying to appeal to his emotions. Since it looks like her words aren't getting through to him, she decides to stop the conversation and let him off with a warning, but not without a condition. She wants him to take her to the place where he bought the pendant so she can destroy everything there. He happily accepts the deal, claiming that he wants to buy some more things there anyways. They agree on going the next day, and Frey secretly wants the store to be destroyed as well. The hero returns to his room and he meets with Kania, who's holding a cute-looking cat doll. The doll is a cat plushie that she got from her sister Katia, and although Frey is won over by its cuteness immediately, he turns over and pretends to be uninterested. The two wish each other goodnight and fall asleep as the day turns to night. Then once he's sure that Kania should be asleep, he wakes up and prepares to give her the vitality for tomorrow. Unknown to him, the cat sitting idly on the countertop is actually a magic item that Kania is using to watch over the room while asleep. Kania watches him as he leans over her sleeping body and checks if she's really unconscious. She has known that something suspicious is going on ever since Frey randomly spat out a lot of blood earlier that day. During the day, she kept her eye out, but he never showed any signs of doing anything suspicious. So she decided to use her dark magic to make the cat as a magic item so she can catch him doing something shady while she's asleep. Frey is completely unaware of all this and rolls up his sleeves in preparation to start the vitality transfer. He first pulls up her shirt to show her midriff, and she immediately assumes that he's going to do something perverted to her. Even in the little cat body, she fumes in anger as he watches him violate her body without her consent. But a while after opening her shirt, she realizes that he's not doing anything to her. Instead, he's just holding her stomach while shivering and looking like he's about to pass out. He also seems to be in pain for some reason. Kanya still doesn't trust him and assumes that Frey must be planning to do something else. No matter what, she's determined to catch Frey showing his true colors, so she can reveal who he truly is to everyone. But instead, he leans back after some time has passed and doesn't do anything else to her. Then he walks over to the cat on the counter and stares at it for a bit. Kanya panics for a moment, thinking that she has been discovered, even though her dark magic is so strong that even a saint would have a hard time detecting it. But instead of calling her out, Frey picks the doll up and admires it for a moment in bliss. He's just taking the opportunity to show his true feelings about the cat now that Kanya is not awake to see him being sappy. Kanya panics even more as Frey cuddles against the cat and takes it back to his bed. Then he plays around with it a little more, causing Kanya to accidentally let out a shriek of shock. She thankfully manages to cover it up by pretending to meow, and Frey assumes that the doll just has a function to meow when it's pressed. This continues into the night, and Frey doesn't even realize when he sleeps off. He wakes up to see Kanya clutching her stomach and shivering in pain. Her stomach hurts, and she has to rush off to the bathroom, and the event earns Frey some false villain points. Accumulating more points causes his level to go from beginner to intermediate, which also unlocks the system store. As he scrolls through the new items available in the store to him now, he gets another notification informing him that a main scenario quest is about to begin. The quest requires him to prevent an attack on the commoner dormitory and capture the culprit. To do that, he first needs to go to an auction and get a certain item. Thankfully, he has already promised the teacher that he will take her to that place, so it works out perfectly for him. And as if on cue, a knock comes from the door looking for Frey. A still sick Kanya goes to open the door, and the teacher stands on the other side. She's confused as to why Kanya is in the room with Frey, but that confusion turns to anger when she learns that she's sharing the room with him. She assumes that Frey must have set it up so that he can have his way with Kanya whenever he wants, and he starts to angrily scold him. But Frey just mocks her for having the mind of a virgin. He tells her that she better try and experience it, or she will miss her chance to get married. Frey checks on his new points while Kanya assures the stunned teacher that nothing inappropriate is happening. The hero and his dazed teacher walk out of the room afterwards and head towards the back alleys so they can go to the store that the teacher wanted to see. They put on cloaks to protect themselves and disguise their identities while walking through the shady area towards their location. The teacher can immediately tell from the atmosphere that this place is a disgusting place where many shady things happen under people's noses. Children lay starving on the sides of the street while wealthy-looking men play around with escorts. The teacher knew about the Empire's corruption and injustices, but this is the first time she has ever had to witness it firsthand. The scenes playing out in front of her make her even more determined to get this over with, and she tells Frey to guide her to the store so she can take care of her original mission. After taking care of the store, she plans to clean up the entire area. After a little bit more walking, they reach the store and the teacher pulls out her sword as she walks in to finish things quickly. The preparation for the main quest is his goal, so he doesn't want to have to worry about anything else. As he's waiting for her to come out of the store, he notices a group of people struggling further down the alleyway. Young girls scream and cry for help while gross-looking men restrain them and tie them up. No matter how evil Frey is pretending to be, this is something he just can't overlook. As the group turns a corner, Frey chases after them, hoping to catch them before they can escape. The men knock on a door with the struggling girls and are led into the building before Frey can catch up. By the time our MC gets there are just 2 men guarding a door and no sign of the people he was chasing. He stands there for a moment, wondering if this is the place where they escaped to. The men smirk at him mockingly, telling him that this place doesn't allow kids. But Frey smiles and pulls out a sack of gold coins for each of them. Their tones change instantly, and they even bow down for him as he walks into the building. The inside of the building is completely different and looks almost like a nightclub bar with dimmed colored lights and an attractive-looking bartender. The woman wastes no time and pulls out a book showing all the girls they have available and asks him to choose one that will suit his taste. However, these aren't the ones he's here to save. He tells her that he prefers to see the actual thing before making a decision, but the woman turns him down with a laugh. Another sack of coins immediately changes her tone as well, and she opens a door leading to a basement of some sort and eagerly asks him to follow along. As they walk down the stairs, the status window opens and informs him that the woman leading him through the building is actually the succubus queen and a subordinate of the demon king. That makes this whole setup even more suspicious, and he decides to investigate further. They arrive down at the basement, and it has an incredibly depressing air to it. Women sit in prisons and smile at him, but from their faces it's obvious that they have been crying and tortured during their time here. The scene would be terrible for anyone, and the succubus queen asks if this is much for him. Not only does Frey say he likes it, he implies that he wants to see the younger ones, and even gives her another bag to sweeten the deal. At this point, the woman can't resist and takes him to the deepest part of the basement where there is nothing but a dead end. There, she uses a secret knock on the wall, and the bricks slowly part to reveal a secret room. The woman turns to tell Frey about the hidden passageway, but he strikes first, kicking her away before she can react, and knocking her out as her head slams against an opposite wall. Then he dashes through the passage and finds what he was looking for. The children he saw kidnapped, as well as many others, are trapped in a large bird cage in front of a magic circle. This looks like a ritual that will be used to awaken the Demon King. The kids that have been kidnapped will most likely be used as sacrifices to awaken the Demon King. The succubus queen, who barely managed to stand up, staggers into the room, now in her true form. She orders the cult followers behind her to capture Frey and bring him to her alive. It'll be troublesome if people see his face, so he has to put on a mask to hide his identity. Then in a matter of seconds, he defeats all the cult members and walks towards the queen herself to finish her off. She tries to beg for her life, offering information about the demon lord and even her body in exchange, but it's already too late. Frey stabs her through the chest with his sword, killing her instantly. He doesn't make deals with people that mess with children. The woman falls to the ground, dead, and Frey takes all the kids outside to their freedom. Then he hands them some money to take care of themselves and tell them to head straight home as fast as they can. A status window pops up in front of him and offers him a reward for completing the sudden quest. The rewards are pretty small though. As he's looking through them, a girl from the group he saved comes up to him to ask more questions about how he saved them. He decides to give the reward to the kid since, from her status points, she has an affinity for magic. He tells her that it's a lucky charm that will be an investment for the country. The little girl asks for his name in hopes that she can repay him someday, but Frey tells her that he was just doing the hero's duty. With that, he leaves, but advises her to study magic, since she will have a talent for it. As he leaves, she puts on the ring and promises to study magic diligently to repay his kindness one day. At that moment, Frey had no idea that this event would later bring about an unimaginable change. With that taken care of, Frey returns to where he left the teacher and finds the building completely demolished. She asks him where he has been wandering around to, but now that this matter has been taken care of, it's time to head to the auction to retrieve the special item. He tells her about the auction in the Information Guild and a special black magic artifact that he's interested in, and that immediately piques her interest so much that she grabs him by the collar and orders him to tell her where it is. There's a barrier to entry because without a ticket, they can't get in, but he does have one way of getting in. To enter without a ticket, the two of them will have to register as lovers, which gives them free access. It's hard for the teacher to pretend, but she eventually sits down and composes herself while the auction starts. It may be risky to come here, but there is no better bodyguard for him than his sister. It may seem like an ordinary item, but now that he's here, he should be able to obtain it without issue. Suddenly he notices someone unexpected that's also at the auction. It's Kanya, and she's seated right beside them, but she doesn't know that he's there. And to make matters worse, Princess Klana, one of the heroines, also sits on the other side of him. And right in front of him is the Saintess Furlosh. Somehow, he has entered the worst situation possible. And it's also possible that the three of them are after the same artifact he is looking for. If they can get it and successfully take control of him, that will put him in even more danger. He doesn't have any more time to think about the situation as the auctioneer finally reveals the artifact in question. It's a mysterious stone with power that cannot be understood even through appraisal. The artifact is called the Stone of Domination, and it can suppress the target and manipulate their mind to control them. The stone is a necessary item needed to complete the first scenario quest. In fact, it's going to be impossible to accomplish his goal without it. The bidding starts at 1 gold, but Frey immediately raises it to 15 gold. In this world, money is everything, and he has the wealth of the Duke's empire behind him. The princess raises the bidding to 20 gold without delay. The Saintess Furlosh raises the bidding to 10,000 gold, but it's clear that she did it by mistake. Frey has no choice but to raise it again, but someone raises it even higher to 12,000. There's someone else in the room who has a strange interest in the stone. The two battle with money, and the stakes go from 20,000 to 30,000 gold in an instant. And it keeps on raising until finally Frey wins the auction for 55,000 gold. But before he can Since he kept his face hidden and changed his voice, it's unlikely that he got exposed. But today was certainly a close call. As he's getting dressed, Kanya walks into the room and walks straight up to him with an accusatory look on her face. She asks him where he was all day, and he tells a half-truth saying that he just went shopping with his sister. That's strange to Kanya since she saw someone that looked exactly like him in a back alley. From her words, Frey can tell that she has figured something out, but since she has no definite proof, he plans to just keep denying it. That is until she reveals that when he fled the scene, he dropped his star-shaped brooch. That's the item she noticed on the ground earlier. Frey rushes to take it from her, but she reveals that she found the brooch in the back alley that she mentioned earlier. He was in such a hurry to escape that he didn't even notice that he had dropped it. Frey panics and hides under his blankets to escape her questions. At this rate, he's going to be found out, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. But Kanya isn't close to done with her investigation just yet. She climbs on top of his back and pulls up his shirt, revealing the multiple bandages he had to apply on his wounds. It's useless to deny it anymore with all this evidence against him. Kanya now has solid proof that the masked man from earlier was indeed Frey. Now that his secret has been revealed, the system activates a penalty for revealing his true identity as a hero. His lifespan and vitality immediately get reduced as a result, and it makes him convulse on the bed while coughing up blood. Kanya can't do anything but call out to him as he literally dies on the bed. After doing her best to take care of him, Frey finally calms down and goes to sleep. Kanya watches over him and wonders if she made the right choice. After all, she has been wanting him dead for a long time, and if she had left him alone, he most certainly would have died. But she can't let him die just like that when he hasn't given her answers for why he helped her. She can always kill him after she gets her answers. With her mind made up, the butler gathers dark energy in her hands and casts a spell on Frey. The spell allows her to invade his subconscious so she can find out everything directly from his mind. After she enters, she's surprised that his subconscious is strangely clear. Usually criminals and villains have deep darkness in their minds. A small voice calls out to her and she turns to see a younger version of Frey staring up at her. Despite the fact that he's a child, he still holds all the power here in the subconscious, so she wastes no time binding him up before he can do anything. The magic she uses to bind him is the magic of the oath, and it forces the person to answer every question truthfully. Frey swears to answer her questions so she can release him, and with that, she undoes her magic and starts her interrogation. She first asks why Frey would save her from death, and he answers that it's because she's important to him. That's hard to believe after everything he's done, but the subconscious explains further that he constantly sacrifices his life energy to save her. She still doesn't seem to believe him, so he decides to show her directly. Kanya gets to see everything from Frey's perspective. From the moment he learnt about the prophecy to how he had to force himself to play the villain and eventually die with the Demon King. With all the memories forced into her head, Kanya falls to her knees as tears fall from her eyes. Finding out that he constantly sacrifices his life for her despite her hatred for him is just too much to handle. The little boy tries to comfort her and tells her that he can handle being hated all by himself. Then he hugs her as the subconscious begins to break around them, returning her to reality where she watches over him with tears streaming down her face. Eventually, he wakes up and immediately asks if she really figured out his true identity. Now that she knows the truth and he has already received the penalty from the system, there's no point in hiding it anyways. He tells her that he has a mission to save the world, and he has to do evil deeds without his good deeds being discovered. That explains why he treats her like that, and she understands his actions now. Then he asks her never to forgive him. He did so many terrible things, and even though his actions weren't thoughtless, he did good things as well. After all, he gave her his life force every night, which she already knew about anyways. Now the next question is what she's going to do moving forward. She decides to keep serving him like always, and Frey isn't surprised that she wants to stay by his side. With that, the two reconcile and the night ends peacefully. The next day, Kanya finds herself in a very strange situation. The princess has called her and the Saintens to a cat cafe for the first meeting of their Frey extermination group. They plan to seize Frey's weakness and try to restrict his movements, and they make plans to end him as fast as possible. Although Kanya doesn't share their hatred anymore, the best she can do is spy on them and make sure that they don't actually manage to hurt Frey. But watching over him has made her realize that she can't carry this heavy burden for him. All she can do are small, mundane things to support him. She'll start with simple tasks like making meals for him. All she wants to do is see her young master smile again. She gives Frey some food later that day and expects him to throw it at her and lash out as usual. But instead, he eats the sandwich with a thoughtful expression for a moment. Then he tells her that it's excellent and explains that he has wanted to tell her things like this for a long time, but has never been able to. After breakfast, he offers to give her some more of his life force, much to Kanya's displeasure. As usual, the penalty starts to take a toll on his body, but surprisingly, it also takes a toll on Kanya as well. Her stomach starts to hurt, and it's most likely because his star mana is mixing with the dark magic inside her. He decides to help her by absorbing the excess dark magic inside her, and although Kanya begs him to stop before he hurts himself, he manages to finish it quickly. Unfortunately, his left arm is left damaged as a result. He claims that it just hurts a little, but it's obvious from the scar and the expression on his face that it hurts more than that. Despite her worries though, it'll return to normal later once it's over. Besides, they don't have time to worry since it's time for school. As class goes on around him, he takes the time to check his false villain stats. He managed to gather a lot of points from his time in the school, and he also acquired as many skills and items as he could. Now he just needs to try and focus on the main quest. The next quest requires him to fight and defeat Irina in the midterm exam. There will be no penalties for skipping the quest since it doesn't affect the main storyline. In his past life, nobles who lose to Irina in the midterm exam will hold a grudge and attack the commoner dorm. This time, however, the villain will change based on his choices and his decision to win or lose against Irina, or to avoid the fight entirely. He decides to follow the prophecy and choose the route that turns him into a villain. After all, it's a much easier role to play than choosing an unknown route. The class ends as the teacher informs them that anyone who slacks off will be penalized, so they will need to pair up and report by the next period. Getting Irina to fight him is the easy part, but he's supposed to lose the fight. And right now, with her mana depletion symptoms, she has no chance of beating him. Later on, outside, the nobles attack Irina and her friend for disturbing Frey's mood. She desperately tries to protect them by activating shielding spells, but the nobles are relentless in their attacks. Frey catches them making trouble and approaches the girl who clearly masterminded it all. He didn't ask them to do this for him, but she seems delighted that he found them anyways. The nobles stop attacking her as Frey walks up to them. He had been thinking about why she ran away from him earlier anyways. He takes this opportunity to challenge Irina to a competition. If they fight during the midterm test, the winner will be able to do whatever they want with the loser. Her friend tries to deny it on Irina's behalf, but Frey asks her if she would want to fight him instead. The answer to that question is obvious, and the girl starts crying as Irina holds her and says that she will agree to his terms. If she wins their fight, then he will give her 1,000 gold, but if she loses, then she will become his slave. And to make sure that they both stick to the terms, he offers to make a death oath with her. That shocks everyone considering how serious and unbreakable death oaths are. Her friend tries to convince her not to go through with it, but Irina has already made up her mind. All she has to do after making this oath is crush him when they fight. The two make the death oath, and the noble girl from earlier blushes in excitement as she watches Frey make a life or death oath as if it's nothing. He turns to the nobles who are harassing Irina and orders them not to lay their hands on the two anymore. Now that he has successfully paired up with Irina and dealt with the annoying people hovering around him, the next problem will be finding a way to lose against her even as she suffers from mana depletion. Losing on purpose won't be easy, but it looks like the system is on his side for once. He gains 500 false villain points for his antics, and also acquires access to the skill store, which should be useful. In the store, he finds a skill called Mana Transfer that costs 800 points. The skill allows him to transfer mana to his target through physical contact. He buys the skill immediately, and with this, he should be able to take care of the main quest without issues. He looks through the store again and decides to buy a deception skill with some more points. He tests the skill by lying out loud that he's actually a woman. It's a weird lie and obviously too much for anyone to believe, but someone yells out in shock behind him. Ferloche was cleaning a window behind him and somehow heard and believed his lies. Then she runs off in hopes of finding a way to threaten Frey with this new information while he watches her, dumbfounded. He considers pursuing her but decides to leave it be. It's all nonsense anyways, and no one would get hurt by it. 3 days later, on the school's training ground, Irina has been working herself to the bone trying to train for her upcoming fight with Frey. She doesn't have enough magic left, and it's clear that things aren't going too well for her. But she's determined to put in as much work as possible so she can be prepared to take him down. If she can just squeeze out one good shot against him, then she might have a chance of winning. Frey is almost brought to tears by the effort she's putting in to defeat him. Even with her low mana, she still manages to summon a large fireball. But she doesn't need to overdo it since he plans on sharing his mana with her anyways. Irina collapses after the fireball disappears, and her friend is by her side to support her. Then she brings up the idea of using a sneaky technique to bring him down. She predicts that Frey will use a dangerous artifact during their matchup, so they will also need to use an indirect approach to win. She then promises Irina that she will try to find a way to secretly help her. Frey is happy that they are thinking up harder ways to beat him, which will make his job of losing so much easier, even though Irina is skeptical at first and doesn't want to end up becoming like him. The two friends walk away, and as Frey watches them leave, a dove comes from the sky holding a message for him. It reads that she knows his secret and orders him to follow the instructions on the paper. Despite the type in the message and the fact that Ferloche accidentally signed her name at the bottom of the letter, this could potentially be a pain in the neck if she actually knows something damaging about him. He goes to the cathedral just like she asked, and she's standing at the altar, waiting for him. Frey is worried that his true identity has been exposed again, but if that were the case, he should have immediately spat out blood and fainted, just like with Kanya. Instead of his identity as a false villain being revealed, it turns out that Ferloche is still held up by the lie that he is actually a woman. And for some reason, she's also holding up a maid outfit that she wants him to wear. He tells her that if he becomes her personal maid and obeys her for the rest of his life, then she will keep his secret for him. Ferloche looks way too excited at this possibility, and our MC can't believe how dumb she is to have believed such an obvious lie. He turns to leave and tells her to do whatever she wants since he's clearly a man, but she's determined to not let him escape. She wraps her arms around his chest in hopes of feeling some indication that he truly is a woman, but he clearly has the chest of a man. That makes her want to check below the waist, but Frey finally has enough and tells her off for her actions. He calls her a pervert and finally plans to leave the cathedral while Ferloche has a mental break. This was supposed to go smoothly for her, but it looks like things can't turn out that way after all. If he had agreed to her demands, then she could have spared his life, but now she has to kill him regardless. She reaches out and grabs him by the throat with her enhanced strength, then slams him on the ground while crying. Then she informs him that Princess Klana knows his weakness and has plans to have him executed, but she wants to find a way to save him. If he had followed her in silence, then she wouldn't have had to end his life in such a brutal way. Eventually, her super strength manages to snuff out the last bit of life out of him and he dies under her. Now that she has done something so horrible, she's also a criminal and a murderer. After failing to convince him, she ended up killing him. The only thing left for her to do is end herself and join him in the afterlife, where they can both repent together. Thankfully, the system kicks in with the emergency defense skill, which protects him from one fatal blow each day. He wakes up with a start and shouts for her to stop before she can take her own life. Ferloche is shocked that Frey managed to somehow survive being choked to death and prepares to use her magic to take him out one more time. But our MC has a trick up his sleeve. He presses a button on his collar which plays a recording of Right as she was trying to kill him, where she admitted that Princess Klana has plans for him to be executed. He obviously wouldn't come unprepared after she sent him a clearly threatening letter. Now he has proof that the Saintess and the third princess are conspiring to have the Duke's son killed. A scandal like that would be the end of both their lives. Thanks to this key information, the tables are now turned, and Ferloche is made to become his maid instead. She's forced to sweep the cathedral multiple times to repay for her crimes and the embarrassment she has caused him. However, in her anger, she accidentally trips and falls to the ground. It's clear she's tired of him, and Frey offers another punishment instead. But she would rather have the damaging rumors spread about her than offer him night service. In response, he slaps her, which immediately earns him a high number of false villain points. He warns her that if she doesn't obey quietly, then he really will spread the rumors about her to the school. Ferloche can't believe how much of a scumbag our MC has become. She once thought that he was a good person, and even till now, she held out hope that there might be some compassion left in him. When they were younger and she was once injured, he gave her a potion to save her life. She rejected it, but he helped her anyway despite her hostility. But now he has turned into someone she doesn't recognize, and he's saying things that she would never imagine him saying. With that, she picks up her broom and continues cleaning the cathedral. It's clear that the last bit of affection she held for him has run out, but considering the events that will happen a few months from now, he's fine with that happening. He'll be the one to take the penalties when they arrive, so if he continues doing this much, then they will at least be safe for a while longer. Later that night, Frey returns to his room, clearly tired and drunk. Lately, he has been plagued by frequent nightmares and now he's drinking alcohol. Despite Kanya's worries, he's already used to things like this from his past life. He changes the topic and offers to give her more life force for the day. With that, she starts to unbutton her shirt so he can touch her stomach. But Frey stops her and tells her that she really doesn't have to place his hand there anymore. It might be time for them to change it up. And although Kanya doesn't mind, Frey reminds her that he can see things he normally shouldn't be allowed to see. That changes Kanya's mind immediately, and they change the setup so she's laying on her stomach while he gives her mana through her back. As he transfers the mana, he takes the opportunity to ask her if she recently entered his subconscious. She admits that she has been doing it occasionally when he's unconscious, but then he reminds her that she doesn't have to go that far for him since his past life was horrible. His words make her realize that his past life was most likely similar to how this one is going as well. It's something she doesn't like to hear, but he has been constantly helping her in this world, and he threw away his life to save hers. Because of that, she wants to do things for him as well. Later that night, as Frey sleeps, he's clearly having another nightmare. She decides to ignore his warnings and step into his dreams to help ease his nightmares. She decides to use the cat that she infused with magic to get into his mind. If she goes in with a form that isn't human, it shouldn't cause any problems for her master. Inside Frey's dream, he walks aimlessly through a dark area. He's confused about where he is and how he got there, but a small sound pulls him out of his dark thoughts. It's a little cat, and it seems familiar to him, but he's not sure where he has seen it before. The feline comes up to him and snuggles against his side, and its presence there makes him feel more comfortable immediately. He picks up the cat as a fog starts to settle in, and parts to reveal two people talking to each other further away from him. He goes closer and recognizes the two people as Ferloche and a younger version of him. This looks like a dream, and the young him hands Ferloche a potion for her injuries. She yells at him and is very distrustful about why he would give her something like that. The young MC introduces himself as Frey Rayon and tells her that when he sees someone in trouble, then he just has to help them. However, Ferloche doesn't believe him and accuses him of trying to use her for his own evil thoughts. The young Frey takes the potion back since she doesn't want to accept it, but then brings out another potion and places it on the ground in front of her. With that, she has the choice of drinking it or throwing it away. Since he has helped her enough, he prepares to leave, but first directs her to the cathedral further away. Even if he can't be trusted, the people at the cathedral can definitely be trusted. Then he runs off before she can stop him, still wondering why he's pretending to be kind to her. As the mist clears, she turns to stone, and it seems like this is way more than just a dream. He remembers earlier when she told him that he gave her a potion when she was injured. Ferloche may say nonsense once in a while, but she doesn't lie, and this event is way too vivid and real to just be a dream. Whatever he just witnessed must have happened in reality, which means that someone manipulated his memories. However, because of what he heard earlier that day, his memories have returned. But as he realizes that, another fog starts to cover the area, this time causing his mind to go blank as the dream becomes dark and terrible. When the mist clears, the cat is nowhere to be found, and instead, Frey is left looking at a dead Ferloche, who looks like she was stabbed and tortured. Despite the swords and arrows in her stomach, she stares at him with wide red eyes and an unnerving bloody smile. After seeing that, he starts to fall into a dark abyss with no way to stop himself. He wakes up again, and once again, he's facing the bloodied and beaten Ferloche, except this time, she's talking to him. She asks him how he could let her end up like this. As he's backing away in fear, another bloodied hand reaches out towards him. It's Princess Klana, and she's in the same state as Ferloche, who's tied to a pillar of wood. He notices that there's a large pool of blood under him, and he realizes that the other heroines are also here, and they are also taunting him for letting them die such horrible deaths for his pleasure. He starts to beg for someone to come and save him as the heroines come together and drag him through the blood into the darkness. The only person who can save him is Kanya, but since she's still in her cat form, there's not much she can do to help him. She tries pulling him back as he loses his consciousness, but there's not much she can do except watch as he gets dragged away from her. Eventually, he falls into the darkness and down into the waiting abyss, but instead of meeting his death, he breaks through the other side into a large open area with a clear sky above him. The area looks incredibly soft and peaceful, and a voice calls out to him, thankful that she made it just in time. He recognizes the voice as his mother's, and the woman appears in front of him for a moment. She prepared for something like this to happen by embedding some of her power into her subconscious, just in case a day like this would come where he would almost lose control of himself. Now, thanks to this, he won't be haunted by nightmares for a while. The image of his mother comes closer to him and caresses his face gently while he cries. She reminds him that he has chosen a thorny path where things will occasionally not go as he has planned. But in times like those, he needs to remember what he truly wants to protect. With that final message, she disappears, leaving him alone and crying in his dreams. Kanya jumps up with a start and calls for her master, but he's already awake. He has also figured out that she was the cat that appeared in his dreams. He thanks her for helping him get a little distracted from his worries. Then he tells her that he met his late mother in his dream, and she reminded him of what he's trying to protect. But he's also worried that his memories have been manipulated, and he's not sure what to believe anymore. Even the prophecy book isn't as reliable anymore. It might all be a lie. Kanya takes the opportunity to hug him and assures him that when all seems lost, he can rely on her. He worked for the sake of others more than anyone else, so even if his memories were manipulated and all his efforts turn out to be in vain, she will never forget the noble life he led from the start. From the beginning, he knew it would be a difficult path, but he kept going with the sole purpose of protecting the people that are most important to him. As he leans against Kanya and allows himself to cry, he remembers that this is not the time to be discouraged. Even if he fails, all his efforts until then won't disappear. A few days later, it's time to start the midterm exams. Thankfully, nothing of note happened since that incident, and he is now fully prepared to face Irina. He bought as many magic transfer scrolls as he could and leveled them up. Then he practiced with Kanya to make sure that it would work out. Now that the time has come, all that's left is for him to make sure the fight goes as he wants it to. Before then though, the first set of people to fight are Princess Klana and Ferloche. Klana prepares a magic blast and aims it towards Ferloche, who also gets in a fighting stance, although Frey can tell that they are clearly plotting something. It should be impossible for them to attack him from the angle that she's aiming from, but she most likely has other ideas entirely. Klana fires the blast towards Ferloche, who punches it, deflecting the attack towards just before the magic circle appeared, so if anyone was the culprit, it would most likely be her. He'll figure out the details later, because right now, he first has to figure out how to get out of the forest and escape the den of monsters. He opens his system inventory and pulls out a deception mask. This mask conceals his identity from people within a certain radius until it is removed. With his mask on and his identity safe, Frey wakes Irina up from her sleep. He warns her that the place is dangerous, and they need to escape as fast as possible. Irina is confused as the Frey tries to hurry her up and guide her along, but there's no time to explain. He does, however, take a moment to explain who is. He lies that he was once an intelligence operative for the Starlight family, and he was abandoned in the forest after being struck with a grave illness. His story makes it seem like Frey and his family had left him there to die, and Irina buys his story for now. Then Frey points out somewhere safer for them to hide. Irina follows along, but she's not fully convinced. His story makes sense on paper, but her intuition tells her that something is off. He's also strangely in a rush, and if he was really an ally of Frey, then there's no way he would help her. For her safety, she decides to decline his offer for help and says that she will go alone. She's confident enough in her skills that she believes she will be able to take care of herself, but she only has about 10% of her magic power left. As long as no mid or high-level monsters appear, she should be fine. As soon as she thinks that, a high-level monster appears right in front of them. It's a giant bear, and it's not supposed to be here. Usually high-level monsters like these only live in remote areas. The giant bear roars and slashes its large claw towards her, but Frey manages to get there in time and cut it down with his swords. If she needed any proof that she wouldn't be able to survive on her own, then this was it. More monsters run up behind them, probably drawn by the giant bear's roar, and they have no choice but to run for their lives. The monsters give chase, but they are just barely able to outrun them in the end. Now that they have a little chance to breathe, Irina takes the opportunity to ask why there are advanced monsters in the area. Those types of monsters aren't even known to inhabit the forest, but there seem to be a lot of them. Frey starts to cough up blood, probably due to all the physical activity he has had to do and from passing his life force to Kanya all the time. He lies that it's a chronic illness, and Irina advises him to take off the mask since it must be filled with blood by now and making it hard for him to breathe. She reaches out to take it from him, but he instinctively slaps her hand away before she can reveal his identity. Irina awkwardly tries to change the topic, and their conversation changes to how they are going to get food. She assures him that she should be able to find something edible in the area, but before she leaves, they exchange names. Frey introduces himself as Rihanna, and Irina takes the opportunity to thank him for helping her get out of that dangerous battle. As she leaves to go and scavenge for food to eat, Frey takes the opportunity to take off his mask and rest. In the rush situation, he managed to make up some lies to clear up her doubts, but he's not out of the woods yet. His first concern is Irina's quest. Since their battle was tampered with and 2 students disappeared during the quest, the Academy is still processing their judgment. That means that he will have no answer to the outcome of the quest for a while. For now, as he rests under the stars and waits for Irina's return, all he can do is focus on getting through this new adventure without triggering any penalties. The forest is full of different dangers, and just one wrong step could cost him his life. The 2 students manage to survive together in the forest for 3 days. Since Irina can hardly use magic, she relies completely on Frey's help to guide her to the forest's entrance. During their journey, they managed to produce their own food and kept moving forward to avoid monsters. Surprisingly, there were no major problems, and they eventually arrived near the entrance. By the night of their 3rd day, Irina sits by a small campfire and thinks back to the events of her fight with Frey. By now, she has figured out that Ariani was most likely the one behind their sudden teleportation. Frey turns up from the bushes carrying a dead boar on his shoulders. Despite his injuries, he is still managing to provide for them. Our MC settles down to skin the animal and prepares to cook it, and Irina once again asks him why he's living in the forest. She wants him to come with her so that she can personally protect him from Frey, but obviously that isn't possible. Once again, he turns her offer to save him down and lies that he has no home to return to. That doesn't change the fact that Irina is determined to save him no matter what, and she's worried about him staying in the forest alone. He warns her that Frey will come after both of them if she ends up taking him in, and he wouldn't want to drag her down. Irina finally agrees to his stubborn demand of being left alone. After all, he has managed to take care of her for 3 days straight, which is enough proof that he will be fine in the forest on his own. He sends her off to go and hunt beasts while he stays by the campfire and prepares the food. Before she leaves, Frey notices that they have an ice dragon fruit among their loot. The ice dragon fruit is a legendary fruit created in ancient times. Frey tells her that he used to eat them a lot as a child, and that causes Irina to look at him suspiciously. After all, she was the one who first found that fruit when she was a child. Before she can think more about it though, the ground starts to shake beneath them. It looks like the worst-case scenario has finally happened. The forest is said to be the habitat of terrifying monsters and dangerous entities. It's also known that the Demon King's army throws all sorts of things in here, like modified monsters and failed experiments. Frey is confident that he can take most of them down easily. The only one he can't fight are monsters that the system itself marks as unbeatable. For now, he has to fight it with all his strength, and he tells Irina to run while he buys her some time. The system identifies the monster as an unawakened dark golem. This looks like the final boss of their journey, and it's not going to be easy to take on. It absorbs the power of the defeated enemies in the forest, and the Demon Lord's army comes later to receive it. From the system's analysis, the golem's absorption rate is only 21%, meaning that its numbers aren't high yet. However, even with that, its absorption ability should easily make it rival the power of an entire army. He can't use his stellar mana in front of Irina, else he will immediately reveal his identity. For now, all he can do is dodge and defend until they can escape. The golem identifies them as targets and starts his attack with a powerful blast of energy, sending the two flying as a result. Frey once again begs Irina to find an opportunity and escape. She doesn't want to leave him behind, but at the rate, the two of them won't last much longer anyways. He tells her that she is the only one who can avenge him against Frey, so she has to live no matter what happens to him. She finally decides to listen to him and assures him that she won't forget this debt for the rest of her life. With Irina finally gone, Frey can use the true extent of his power to defeat the golem. The golem notices Irina running away and prepares to chase after her, but Frey manages to stop it with a powerful attack, sending it falling to the ground. With that, the monster is temporarily immobilized, but it won't be defeated unless he can destroy its core. The golem isn't done fighting just yet, and even though it can't stand up anymore, it still has a large amount of firepower. It activates magic missiles and sends them all flying towards our hero. He manages to cut them all down before they can harm him, but it keeps firing them repeatedly. At this rate, if it keeps dragging on like this, it will most likely be fatal. For now, he has to focus on destroying the core as quickly as possible. The golem has other plans and recognizes Frey as a threat that can destroy it. So instead of fighting, it activates a self-destruct sequence in hopes of taking both itself and Frey out at once. With how large it is, if it self-destructs, even Irina will be caught in the blast radius. That means he can't just run away, he has to find a way to stop it. Our MC leaps on the monster's chest and stabs his sword straight into it, causing a bright light to envelope the area before eventually exploding. Despite that though, he manages to succeed and stops it from self-destructing, but the explosion leaves him at his limit. The mask cracks and falls from his face, leaving him defenseless and weak. A sound causes him to look upwards, and he notices a reconnaissance crow scanning the area. With all this commotion at the forest entrance, it's likely that nearby villagers are trying to scan the area and investigate. If they find him here, then his identity will be exposed to Irina, so he has to find a way to escape and hide. However, it's too much for him, and he has already used all the energy he has left in the fight with the golem. His body refuses to respond when he tries to stand up, and he ends up falling into something soft and warm. He opens his eyes and realizes that it's Kanya that he has fallen into. She assures him that he should leave the rest to her now that she's here. She lifts him up and allows him to rest his weight on her. Additionally, she has a carriage waiting for him nearby so she can take him home without anyone noticing him. Now that Kanya is here to take care of him, Frey allows his consciousness to fade and trusts her to take it from there. He wakes up later in the student dorms with Kanya watching over him. He has been asleep for 2 whole days, and she has been especially worried about him. Now that he's awake, he asks Kanya to explain the current situation to him so he knows how to act moving forward. She informs him that a search party investigated the area where he was found, and a school is currently questioning Ariani on the techniques that she used to try and help Irina. It was supposed to be a healing scroll, but she ended up accidentally teleporting the 2 of them. Multiple testimonies from other students and the evidence prove that Ariani's story is valid, but the situation will most likely be dealt with as a serious crime. It's possible that she got a counterfeit from the shop that she bought the scroll at, and Frey decides that he will need to investigate the source of the scrolls for now. Kanya confirms that someone is already investigating it at the moment. The next topic is Irina, and Kanya tells him that she was taken to a nearby village for protection. Thanks to the villagers, she managed to return safely and has fully recovered. She had to push herself to the limit throughout the night, so her stamina was completely drained. The results of the match had also been determined, and due to the circumstances involved, the school decided to name Frey as the winner of the duel. It would have been a lot easier for him if he had lost, but at least there is no penalty from the system. He also received a reward called Life Changer. Now he has a new quest involving Irina, and although the difficulty is high, it's not completely impossible. There's still time, and if he takes the necessary steps, he should be able to find a solution before it's too late. There's also one more thing he needs to know that happened while he was unconscious. The Duke immediately sent a search party out to find him as soon as his disappearance was reported. As soon as he heard the news, he went to the magic tower and asked where the scrolls were headed. The answer caused the Duke to collapse from stress on his way home, and he still hasn't regained consciousness. Frey bows his head for a moment and asks Kanya if he can borrow her chest for a moment. She agrees, and the 2 hug for a moment as Frey lets his emotions out. A few weeks later, the 2 of them are to head back to the Starlight Estate. Frey is still recovering from his injuries, but he can't just sleep when his father has collapsed. He doesn't plan to stay long anyways, and he has to make preparations for the main quest. Before he leaves, however, Irina is waiting for him in front of his room. Kanya lets her in, and Frey wastes no time and reminds her of the fact that she lost their little bet. Since she lost, she will have to obey all his commands as promised, but before that, she begs him to grant Ariani her freedom. It would have been more expected if she came to get revenge for the incident in the forest, but instead, she came to negotiate with him. He first tells Kanya to go and arrange the carriage, then he maliciously teases Irina, asking her why exactly he would do something for his slave. She promises to listen to anything he says, so he says that he will do to her what he wanted to do in the forest. Instead of arguing like he expected her to, she agrees as tears stream down her cheeks. Her display puts him off, and she orders her to work as hard as she can with the promise that he will decide what to do with Ariani depending on how well she behaves. With that taken care of, he goes outside to meet with Kanya by the carriage. As the horse-drawn vehicle moves towards his estate, he tells Kanya about Irina's request to free Ariane. It'll be troublesome for him, but he planned to do it anyway, since there are plenty of ways to set her free. Then he asks Kanya how she's feeling since she had to use black magic to save him in the forest. It wasn't a significant spell, so thankfully, it didn't take too much of her life force. For now, Kanya is his only support, and because she's here, he can smile a bit despite his circumstances. Because of what happened with Irina's quest, he has realized that he's going to need her help going forward. She pledges that her life belongs to him, but that's not what he wants at all. If she puts her life on the line to save his, then she's not helping him at all. What she needs to do for him is to save him when he can't help himself, and also to take care of herself. And he also has a way of helping her and her sister. He summons an item from his system inventory, which should be of great help to the both of them going forward. Frey and Kanya reach the Starlight Estate, and our MC immediately goes to see his father. Just as Kanya reported to him, Abraham Starlight is currently unconscious and unresponsive. Frey clutches the man's hand and swears that he will definitely come back when all his adventures are over. After seeing his father, he leaves the room and meets Kanya outside. He can't stay there for too long since right now, he is nothing but a foolish son who is disrespectful to his parents. If he stays by his father's side too long, it will cause misunderstandings. Thankfully though, his father's life doesn't seem to be in danger, so if he handles everything properly, then things may just go back to the way they were before. The next stop in his tour around his home is Kanya's younger sister's room. Kanya put her to sleep with magic beforehand so that she wouldn't be flustered seeing our MC. He tells Kanya to wait for him outside the room, so he can finish what he needs to do quickly. He walks in, and the girl is sound asleep and looks like a smaller version of Kanya. Despite that, they were born with directly opposite abilities. Unlike Kanya, who shaves away at her own life force to use black magic, Kadia's powers specialize in calming black magic. She can also manipulate the black magic of others, meaning that she should be a great help to Kanya. Since she's young, he's giving her a latent potential elixir that will help to awaken the rest of her abilities. With that, the results should be visible in half a day, and she will be able to experience her true power. Out of nowhere, someone yells at him to get away from Kadia and tries to attack him with a magical blast from her hand. The attack pushes Frey against a wall as the new girl rushes to check in on Kadia. This newcomer is Arya Rayon Starlight, Frey's little sister. She grabs onto his shirt and blames him for their father's illness, and accuses him of trying to do indecent things to Kadia despite everything that has happened. It's been a long time since he has seen his little sister, but in this situation, it's better to insult her and push her away than to greet her. He slaps the girl's hand away and pushes her to the ground. Then he hurls insults at the two girls, calling Kadia his object that he should be allowed to do anything he wants with. Since his father has collapsed, he is the current head of the Starlight family, meaning that the house, the girl, and everything else including Arya herself all belong to him. So he has the right to do anything he wants. Arya rushes to stop him, thinking that he's actually going to do something to Kadia, and while pushing him back, she begs him to turn back into the kind person he once was. That causes Frey to pause for a moment before forcing himself to push Arya aside. Then as he walks out, he tells Arya to make sure that she shows herself around him as little as possible from now on. His horrible actions earn him some more false villain points, but the sound of his sister crying behind the door he just slammed forces him to take a moment to feel the pain outside Kadia's bedroom door. He's getting used to playing the villain, but doing it to his own family is still too much for him. That can easily be solved once Frey buys an item from the town. The two have to head to the Empire's back alleys to find the item that Frey requires. It's a demon raider which has the power to detect demons within a certain radius around them. It's also really small and convenient, meaning that he can carry it around with him anywhere he goes. With this item, the preparations are finished for the first main quest. The demon radar works on everyone except the Demon King and executive class demons. Since he can already see high-level demons through the system window, the device's limitations will be no problem for him. The system is usually a source of his troubles, but in times like these it can be very useful. The other problem they have at hand is his fiancée Serena. Kanya asked for information from the back alleys, and she also set up shadow warriors to continue gathering intel. However, they both know that if Serena really wanted to hide, then there's no way they would be able to find her with their current power. She's the heir to the Moonlight family, and that family handles all the Empire's espionage and assassination missions. A person like that is perfect at hiding away and manipulating facts. As they walk through the streets, Frey notices a group of children looking miserable on the streets. Those are the kids that were captured by the Succubus Queen, and it looks like they have already used up all the money they got from him after he saved them. They sit pitifully on a rag by the streets, and it's clear that they are in pain. From what he can hear them saying, they had no choice but to use all their money quickly, since if they had waited too long to spend it, then it would have been stolen from them. Frey decides that his methods are too slow, and to save those kids, he's going to need to do something more drastic. His first thought is building an orphanage to take care of the children. As a hero, he can't overlook this situation, and he has the money to do it anyways. Kanya is shocked by his sudden decision to do something so drastic and warns him that if he does this, then his identity will be revealed to everyone, which will definitely have huge consequences for him. As Kanya complains about his decision, he shows her his reward from defeating Irina. It's a lifespan measuring device, and it shows that he has about 4 to 5 years left in him. With such little time, he has to do all he can to save the people of the Empire in hopes that it will lessen his sins. It's unfair that he has to go through so much, but it's a hero's duty. But Kanya understands his struggle and decides to build the orphanage for him in her name. With that, she takes some food to the kids to help them live easily for a while. Meanwhile, the ball at the Imperial Palace is coming up, and Frey will have to attend it in place of his father. A lot of people will probably try to come after him, but since he has a fiancée already, it will be very easy to turn them all down. In the Imperial Palace, Princess Klana Mother scolds her about the potential threat to the Imperial family. If the Moonlight family and the hero's bloodline are to unite, then they will be a big threat to them. While it does sound reasonable on paper, it's obvious that the Queen only wants the Starlight family's massive fortune. She wants her daughter to marry Frey and even threatens to sell her body off if she fails. But with the knowledge from her previous life, Klana would rather die than marry our hero. The next day at the school, Frey uses the demon scanning device to try, but there's no reaction from it. If a demon is really hiding within the school grounds, it would be easy for Kanya to take it out on her own. But since there's nothing going on, the two of them can just relax for a while. It has been a long time since the two of them have had any chance to relax with each other, and Frey wants to enjoy this rare moment with her for as long as he can. Kanya blushes at the fact that Frey wants to spend time with her, but then she decides to take the opportunity to hand him a letter involving the ball that will be held in a week. He has been expecting the Emperor to invite him, but the contents of the letter are completely different than what he thought it would be. It's an order from the Emperor himself forcing Frey to annul his engagement with Serena and instead engage with his daughter Klana Solar Sunrise. Apparently, this engagement is due to the second vow made by the first Emperor and the previous hero. The second vow is related to the marriage of the first Emperor and his ancestor, but he can't quite remember what it says. As he's thinking, it seems like rumor of his cancelled engagement has already spread. As he's thinking to himself about what he's going to do going forward, a group of girls who are interested in being his marriage partner for the upcoming ball immediately surround him and offer themselves. Frey's original plan was to reject them with the excuse that he already has a partner picked out for him. But now, thanks to the order from the Emperor, he doesn't have that excuse anymore. Because of this, Kanya is forced to take the initiative, and she steps up to separate them from Frey. She orders them to step back, informing them that his fiancé has already been chosen. On top of that, it's an order from the Emperor himself, so there is nothing they can do to change it. The girls glare at her as they walk away, and one of them even directly declares that she is definitely going to marry Frey, but there's nothing they can do to change reality. Now that the rumor is spreading around the school, it's very likely that he will keep being harassed by people who have heard it and want to take the opportunity to become his bride. With that problem taken care of, the biggest issue is the fact that he has been set up to marry Klana, who already hates his guts enough. He was already worried about keeping his distance from Serena when she returns, but now it seems there's a whole new drama coming up. Although now that he and Serena are no longer bound together, this may end up working in his favor after all. But that doesn't mean that everything has been fixed just yet. Elsewhere, In the academy library, Klana uses her free time to read through as many books as she can, hoping to find some sort of information about this so-called second vow. The library books have no answers for her, and she considers going into the secret archives at the palace, but she can't go in there without her father's permission. All she knows for now is that 1,000 years ago, when the Demon King disappeared, the first emperor, her ancestor, created this country with the help of the Starlight family that defeated the Demon King and the Moonlight family that went through many dark dealings behind the scenes. To honor their efforts, the emperor gave them many privileges, and since then they have not been allowed to interfere in each other's decisions. For 1,000 years, the royal family has continued to request cooperation from both families, and then suddenly, that is all overturned with an engagement annulment. It makes no sense to her, and she wants to know what kind of vow would make that possible. As she's walking around thinking to herself, she runs into Frey, who she assumes came to leisurely tease her. She tries to leave immediately since they have no business with each other. But Frey has more to say to her than just some light teasing. He hints that he knows about the second vow and a lover's quarrel between their ancestors from 1,000 years ago. Then he tells her that it was all written in their old manuscripts. From what he read, the first emperor was in love with the previous hero, and having lost her rightful position as his first consort to the leader of the Moonlight family, she made a vow that would make sure her descendants wouldn't suffer the same fate. With that, he tosses a sheet of paper at her with facts that he claims are encoded so he can't read them. And then he makes a vague threat towards her, implying that he would like to become the head of the Sunrise family due to the ties with being an emperor. Although his words look like vague taunts and teasing, he actually just gave her a hint about the right of both parties to refuse. If she notices it and uses it well, then there's a chance she can avoid the marriage altogether. Elsewhere, an old woman walks through a dark path in the forest towards a cabin in the woods. Serena is sitting in the comfort area enjoying a cake and waiting for her to come. The woman is the head of the magic tower of the Sunrise Empire, and she was specifically called over by Serena for a favor. Serena wants to erase her memory from the past month, which is the length of time since she returned to this new life. The witch doesn't want to agree at first and warns Serena that doing something so foolish will be too much for her body to handle. But there is no choice. Since she knows about the hero's true identity, there's a chance that she may accidentally reveal it, which will bring down punishment from the system. So to avoid this, she wants to erase her memory in hopes that she will be able to keep his identity a secret. And that's not all. She also wants the old woman to cast a spell on her that will make her obey commands unconditionally. She wants the target of the obedience to be Frey Rayon Starlight. That is because if this spell isn't cast on her and she loses her memories of his true mission, then she might end up killing him at the ball. Outro. And that's all we have to work with. Things are getting interesting as more heroines are introduced and start directly affecting the main plot. With the ball coming up and Serena returning to the story, how will this affect Frey and his mission going forward? And will he be able to keep his secret from getting out? A few days pass by and the day of the ball finally arrives. Klana is dressed by one of her maids in an elegant gown prepared by her mother, the Empress, and it looks great on her. However, she's still upset about the conditions that led her to a forced marriage with Frey. There are only 6 hours left till the engagement is announced at the ball, and she still hasn't figured out how to annul the marriage. For now, all she can do is use the time she has left to decipher the code in the secret book somehow. A cat comes in through her window and drops a book on the floor, then meows to catch her attention. Before she can go up to it, it leaps out from where it came from, and Klana notices the book left behind. She opens it to read its contents and immediately gasps from what she has realized. Elsewhere, the ball officially starts, and the doors of the banquet hall open to allow Frey and his butler to enter. All eyes are on them as they enter the ball, and Frey takes a glass of wine from one of the tables. He asks Kanya if she did what he asked, and she confirms that she handed the book to Klana just as they had discussed. Now that this is settled, Frey is finally free of the things holding him back. Thanks to this engagement issue with Klana, his engagement with the Moonlight family has been called off, so all he has to do is make sure his proposal with Klana falls through as well. He has left the princess enough hints to take control of the situation for herself, but if it comes down to it, then Frey will simply have to refuse the engagement himself. All that is left for him to settle is his deal with the Empress, which shouldn't be too difficult for him either. As they talk, someone comes up to him and requests for a moment of his time. He recognizes her as the girl who used to bully Irina back at the academy. Frey isn't interested in long conversations and directly asks what she wants, hoping that they can get to the point. She starts by telling him that she feels sorry for him since he has to marry the most unruly of the royal daughters. Miss Klana is also a royal in name only, and she doesn't even measure up to a rural noble. The girl continues to badmouth Klana, and Frey warns her that she should watch her words since she can never know who is listening. That doesn't stop her though. She mentions that she could offer him much more as the Count's daughter with her power and wealth. With her message passed across, she bows her head and leaves him alone with Kanya. That was a strange interaction, and although her motives are clear, acting like that won't change anything in the long run. He decides to ignore it altogether and heads off for his meeting with the Empress. On his way, he passes Klana, who glares at him in hatred as he walks past. He reaches a girly-looking bedroom where he's told to wait for the Empress to arrive. The room is incredibly girlish, but he's told that the person who designed it was the Empress herself. Eventually, she walks in with a smug smirk on her face and asks him how it feels to become part of the royal family. Now that he's marrying the princess, Frey will become one of the high-ranking nobles in the country, and no one will be able to interfere with him anymore. There has also strangely been no backlash from the Moonlight family who he was engaged with before, and the royal family has made sure to show them appropriate sincerity. In other words, they used money to silence them, and the lunatic old man of the Moonlight family who Frey specifically hates is definitely the kind of person to do such a thing. In the past, they had a righteous cause against the Empire, but nowadays, money is the only thing that moves the Moonlight family. Even while arranging the marriage between Frey and their own daughter, the engagement was ultimately just for money. Frey doesn't let his disgust show on his face and continues talking casually, also stating that he wasn't too keen on marrying the Moonlight family anyways. Now that he's becoming royalty, it's time for him to show his gratitude to the family for inviting him in so graciously. He slides over a document regarding the donations that he brought in exchange for gaining royal status. It states that he will hand over 6 million gold, which is twice the money that the Empress expected. She continues to read through the contract, and she's eager to sign it so that there won't be any disputes later on. But then she notices a troubling clause at the bottom of the contract. It states that Frey cannot be arrested for any crime except treason. Frey excuses himself by saying that he intends to do some unsavory tasks for the royal family after his marriage with Klana. So in exchange, he wants protection while he gets his hands dirty. The Empress smirks at Frey's proposal, and things like this are exactly what she wants to hear from him. There's also another clause that states that if the engagement is annulled for any reason outside of Frey Rayon Starlight's intent, then his donations will be nullified. That's also a precaution to guard anything bad from happening to Frey. But something like that would definitely never happen. At least that's what the Empress thinks as she laughs away the remark and happily signs the contract. As long as the agreement from their century-old contract is in place, Klana cannot defy their marriage. With everything settled between them, Frey turns to take his leave from the Empress's room, and she promises him that she will stamp the contract and send it over to him accordingly. From their interaction, it shows that the nation really is run by money-hungry people, and they all dominate its governance. But thanks to their greed, his plans are complete, and it will definitely make playing the role of a villain a lot easier. As he walks through the palace halls, he once again runs into Klana, and she asks him if he's done with the negotiations involving her. Frey deflects by saying that they were just talking about national development, but anyone can tell that is simply a lie. Both he and the Empress were just trying to fulfill their selfish desires, but Klana is determined to make sure that things don't go his way. From her words, it looks like she has figured out a way to avoid the marriage, and just like that, everything is going according to his plans. Now he can sit back and watch her rampage from the best seat in the house. The ball carries on, and couples dance to the music as the ceremony begins in full swing. Frey has gotten the contract back from the Empress, and it has the Emperor's proper stamped seal, which means that there will be no issues enforcing it going forward. This will ensure that no one suspects him while he's pretending to be a villain. Strangely though, Serena Moonlight is nowhere to be seen even though she was sent an invitation to the ball. The Moonlight family must have refused to attend, and it wouldn't be a surprise either considering the events that have transpired so far. The head of the Moonlight family is also someone that is known to rarely attend these kinds of events, and considering Serena's position after her engagement was annulled, it's likely that she just didn't feel like coming. Although it's still strange since Frey expected her to at least come under the pretense of gathering information to kill him. Maybe she doesn't actually intend to kill him after all, but that's hard to confirm since they are barely receiving any intel from her side. There's also absolutely no movement from her at all, unlike everyone else who have taken many steps to go after his life. It's like she's just observing for now and waiting to see what happens. In any case, Frey has to stay on guard and make sure that he's prepared for anything. An announcement silences the crowd as the son of the Empire enters the ballroom. It's the Emperor Lycan Solar Sunrise and his wife, Raimi Solar Sunrise. They both arrive to announce the engagement of the third princess to Frey, but midway through the speech, he gets tired and tells his wife to take over while he rests on his throne. The Empress continues and invites the two people involved to step forward. Frey and Klana come forward before the Empress and the engagement ceremony begins. Of course, Frey consents to the agreement and gets down on one knee to formally propose to Klana. The princess, however, finally makes her move and pushes past Frey to confirm that she does not consent to the marriage, much to the shock of everyone in the ballroom. The Empress is surprised that her daughter would go against her since she shouldn't have any authority to oppose the marriage. The second pledge between the Starlight family and the first Empress should be unstoppable. But the truth is that it has a loophole that the Empress failed to notice. The pledge cannot be upheld without the mutual consent of both parties. For confirmation, she turns to her father, who still looks sleepy during all this, but is at least mildly interested. The Emperor thought that both parties had agreed to the engagement, and this was just a formal exchange of vows. However, this was just because Klana didn't know she had the right to refuse the marriage until recently. It looks like the Empress, with her busy schedule, forgot to check if consent was required. At least that's what it looks like to the Emperor. Since things have come to this, the Emperor has no need to overturn the ruling of the first Empress. And now that Klana has formally refused, the marriage is then invalid. Just as Frey planned, this entire marriage has been invalidated, and he is now free of any forced engagements. To play up the theatrics, he pretends to be a freshly dumped bachelor who has his heart broken, but in reality, everything has gone according to his plans. He pretends that he wants nothing but Princess Klana's happiness, and the Emperor absolutely eats it up, calling Frey a generous man for allowing things to pass along smoothly like this. Then the Emperor formally apologizes to everyone that came to witness an engagement, and allows the party to continue so they can enjoy it to their heart's content. Once the announcement is over, the Empress immediately cuts through the crowd and confronts Klana for her actions. She warned Klana that if she failed the engagement, then she would be sold off as a slave, but the princess is no longer afraid of her threats. If she does anything, then Klana will expose her for every last bit of corruption she has partaken in. Frey cuts into their argument to inform the Empress that he will be taking back his prepared donations with him since the marriage has been annulled. But according to their contract, his immunity clause is still in place, and Klana confronts her for giving such a powerful trump card to a devilish man like Frey. As the two of them continue to argue, Frey triumphantly walks away from the situation. It was a bit troublesome, but everything turned into a surprisingly rewarding ordeal for him. He got rid of the burden of having a fiancée, and now he's completely free of the troublesome women in his life. Well, almost free, that is. On his way to meet up with Kanya, he runs into the girl from earlier, who's still playing up her exaggerated theatrics of pitying him. She mocks the princess, calling her a tomboy for the way he acts, and even belittles her for daring to humiliate Frey in public. It looks like this girl really doesn't know how to take a hint and back off when she's not wanted. Then she once again tries to advertise herself as an obedient and faithful wife candidate, but Frey puts a stop to her before she can get ahead of herself. He lets his disgust of her show and tells her to get lost with her ulterior and delusional motives. The noble girl can barely believe what Frey is saying, but he doesn't let up and calls her terribly annoying straight to her face. With that, he walks away while she continues shouting insults at his back. Now that everything has been taken care of, he finally meets back up with Kanya, who is waiting for at the entrance of the ballroom. However, she has terrible news for him and hands him a letter. During the engagement announcement, Serena came by and left a letter with a message for him. It says that he should come out to the courtyard to meet her, or he will be killed immediately. Frey goes out to meet Serena just as he was instructed, and she seems somewhat excited to see him. They aren't engaged anymore, so he has no idea why she wants to see him so badly, but her threat of killing him was nothing but an empty threat. That letter was the only way she knew he would come outside immediately. They are supposed to be strangers right now, but since they both have memories of their past lives, they have known each other for quite a while, and despite everything Frey has done, she has decided to help him. However, Serena doesn't remember what she's supposed to be helping with since she has lost her memories. She's aware of the ball and their broken arrangement thanks to some notes that she left for herself before the memory erasure, but she doesn't know anything other than that. Frey is absolutely lost about this whole conversation, but he mainly wants to know what she means by the fact that she has lost her memories. She confesses that she had her memories from the last month of travel erased by magic with help from the master of the magic tower. She also had them cast a spell of absolute obedience on her, binding her to Frey. Frey is even more confused about her motives, but even Serena doesn't know why she did it. All she knows is that for her to place such heavy restrictions on herself, it's highly likely that whatever she forgot is related to him. Whatever it is must be a result of the things she saw in the ruins that she went to visit during her travels. At the mention of the ruins, Frey is able to figure out what must have happened. Across the world, there are ruins tied to the hero, his ancestor. In these ruins, there are records about the hero's identity and the penalties within the system that will be enacted on his descendants. However, they are written in kana, so no one should be able to read them. However, she somehow managed to decipher it through context and guesswork. That allowed her to figure out who he really is, and as a result, she erased her own memories to prevent him from suffering the penalty. Serena notices his thoughtful expression and advises him not to think too deeply about it. If she were to join him in thinking, she might accidentally figure out what she went so far to forget, and that would definitely be a problem. As much as Frey understands the situation, now that Serena has lost her memories, there's really no reason for her to be going so far to help Frey. However, she has her own reason for going so far for him. It's because she loves him. He may be a terrible person who has done horrible things, but she still loves him despite everything. Now that she has passed across her message, he turns to take her leave, but tells him to call her if he ever needs her help. Frey is still utterly confused about the whole thing, but there's a bright side to this chaos. With Serena's abilities and her overwhelming intelligence network, as well as the room, much to Kanya's displeasure. The two of them glare at each other for a moment as Serena claims that she doesn't need permission to enter her fiancé's room. However, their engagement has already been called off, so she can't even claim that. Serena ignores that comment entirely and takes the opportunity to look around the room, while Frey wonders what exactly he got himself into. Serena told him that he could call her when he needed her, but it seems like she would rather make a habit of letting herself in. But Serena isn't done looking around and directly asks Kanya what she's doing in Frey's room. It's odd to her since Kanya should also have memories of their past lives, and she wonders if the butler plans to harm Frey in any way. Kanya confidently tells Serena that she has no intention of ever hurting Frey, and the two stare at each other for a moment. Thanks to Serena's high intelligence, she's able to tell that Kanya is indeed telling the truth. It looks like Frey has a very reliable butler after all. Despite how random her arrival is, her timing is perfect since Frey was just thinking of going to see her. He needs her help to continue preparing for the first quest. But before he can do that though, he needs to place an order on her first before they can do anything together. He orders her to doubt everything about him. This is to make sure that they don't accidentally trigger the system's penalty after all of Serena's efforts. The penalty isn't triggered by doubts or guesses about him. It can only be triggered by a person's absolute certainty. Even if Serena inevitably figures everything out again, As long as she continues to doubt him, they should be safe. With that taken care of, he hands her a map of the commoners' dormitories and advice that can be used to detect demons. Then he tells her that he received information about the demons that are planning to launch an attack in the area. To stop this, he wants her to deploy people from the Moonlight family to secure the area and provide surveillance. Serena agrees, but just like he ordered, she doubts his moves and starts asking questions. However, he's easily able to stop her by ordering her not to inquire further about his motives. With that done, she leaves the room, but not before reminding Frey that she loves him. Just like in their past lives, Serena is incredibly hard to understand, but even with that, she's incredibly competent. For now, all they can do is wait patiently for her to return with news. Just as he instructed her to, all the Moonlight family scouts patrol the area looking for anything suspicious. So far, everyone is in position, but there doesn't seem to be any particular reaction from the demon detection device Frey gave her. They have also dispatched scouts who are experts on demons, so it's only a matter of time before whatever evil in the area is caught. Once they are done discussing the specifics, the scout returns to her post to continue work, while Serena decides to rest in the area and continue her plans to figure out her next move. Meanwhile, the crow watches her from above, but doesn't deem her as someone that will be useful for their plan. The Demon Lord needs someone who is capable of using powerful black magic thanks to their intense negative emotions. Only they will be able to break the restraints on the Demon King and free her from her prison. The person will also need to draw a magic circle large enough to sacrifice the entire commoner's dormitory. As it continues to scout, someone in particular catches its eye. It's the girl that tried to flirt with Frey at the ball. She's still bitter about what our MC did to her and the fact that she was utterly humiliated by him. She's filled with jealousy and rage, which is exactly what the demon army needs. The crow approaches her and flaps its wings, causing one of its feathers to land on her shoulder. The feather unleashes something dark and powerful in her, and the crow reveals itself and speaks to her, asking her what she is. She responds that she is the Demon King's servant, and as per their wishes, she will attack the commoner's dormitory. Back in the dorms, Kanya serves Frey his morning coffee. It's been a long time since they've had such a peaceful morning, since there have been a lot of unpredictable events lately. Since they have some free time right now, Frey offers to take Kanya out to buy some new clothes and eat good food. Kanya doesn't face him as he continues talking, and in her mind, she mentally panics because this is basically a date. Before they can conclude on their plans, Serena comes barging in through the door shouting for Frey. Just as he had expected, there is suspicious magic energy leaking from the commoner's dormitory. With nothing else to do, Kanya and Frey decide to postpone their outing to another time. They rush over to the commoner's dormitory, and as soon as they get there, Frey gets a notification from the system informing him that the first main quest has started. He has to prevent the attack and capture the culprit. In return, he will get a hero's weapon awakening level up, but if he fails, he will get a slight reduction to his life force and lifespan. The fact that the quest has appeared means that the intruder is definitely in the building, and the magic coming from inside is terrifying. Ordinary people won't last too long, and because of it, Serena had to pull her troops back. Weirdly enough, the surveillance on the building was never lifted, but the detection devices Frey gave them didn't pick up anything abnormal. But all of a sudden this morning, evil magic started flowing from inside. Frey wonders if this could be because a noble student entered inside, and Serena wonders why he would bring that up all of a sudden. Frey doesn't have time to explain things to her though, and he's more concerned about the fact that he never warned them of the fact that the culprit could be a noble. That still doesn't explain why the detection device didn't activate though. There's no time to dwell on it, and he has to focus on dealing with the situation. Their only option is to go in there and drag out the culprit. Once they get in there, Frey can use the Stone of Dominion to subdue the attacker and bring them under his control. If he can capture them and order them to do what he wants, he can prevent the attack. As he's explaining the details, he notices some people in the distance that he definitely shouldn't be seeing right now. In a flash, he grabs the two girls with him and forces them to hide behind a bush right as the three other heroines arrive at the scene. It's Ferlosh, Irina, and Klana, and it looks like they are also investigating the evil presence. They rush in intending to save the other people that have been trapped inside. Irina being here is expected since she's also a commoner, but it's strange that the other two are with her. They must have gotten closer without him realizing. This is certainly unpredicted, but he's going to have to deal with that later. Serena once again asks him to explain what exactly is going on, but he ignores her and orders Kanya to cast a recognition blocking spell to make sure that no one gets close to them. Serena can't hold back her jealousy at being ignored and casts the spell herself. Now that what Frey wanted has been taken care of, she once again demands that he tell her what's going on. He's planning to find the attacker himself and use the Stone of Dominion to take control of their mind. Then he will reveal himself as the mastermind which will complete the quest for him. It'll cause a huge uproar, but his immunity from arrest and vast expanse of money should be enough to cover it up. Explaining that will take forever though. so he simply orders Serena to stop overthinking things and follow him without question. She's forced to follow his command, and the three of them enter the dormitory as well. Inside is dark and unwelcoming, as the three of them walk through the halls. Suddenly, a monster tries to attack Frey, and he reaches down to draw his sword. Serena is faster and manages to slap the monster back, slamming it against a wall. Two others come out from the shadows, but she quickly subdues them with magic before they can launch another attack. Her ability to use magic so skillfully is incredible, and for a moment, Frey takes a moment to be thankful that she's on their side. On the floor, he notices some graffiti in the shape of a magical circle. It has an ominous magical aura lingering around it, and it's certainly very suspicious. Elsewhere, Kanya notices some people unconscious on the floor in another room that have been taken out with sleeping magic. Frey orders Kanya to try and enter their subconscious, but after a few attempts, she can't get in there. Something is blocking her from getting in. That's frightening, since when it comes to subconscious magic, no one can surpass Kanya. A strong will can resist intrusion, but completely blocking her should be impossible. Not even the strongest mages or the master of the magic tower can do that. And even the Demon Lord's army shouldn't have someone with that ability. Now that things have come to this, there's only one person that comes to mind that can have that kind of ability. It must be the Demon Lord herself who's personally involved with this.